Patrick Bet David doesn't sugarcoat anything, and when he got his hands on Angel Reese's "will sit out" ultimatum, he absolutely torched it. But here's what makes his breakdown so satisfying. He didn't just dunk on the threat, he followed the money. The WNBA was losing around $40 million a year and running on NBA subsidies. So who exactly had the leverage to be making demands? Not the player who showed up to the Atlanta Dream's preseason looking exactly as unimproved as she left Chicago. Still bricking layups, still getting bodied, still collecting fashion show invites instead of actual reps. And Reese's new salary under the new WNBA collective bargaining agreement just proves how the market sees Reese as compared to other young stars such as Caitlin Clark, Paige Beckers, or Aaliyah Boston. How long do you think Reese will last in the WNBA? Let me know down in the comments below.
You know what I love watching? I love watching her highlights of missing shots. She's got to be the worst shooter you've met in your life. But go, Rob, just go, give this feedback. Give this feedback here. Go for it.
Season 2, I can't wait to work with you some more. The biggest advice I have for you is going to be how you shoot your layups, period.
Layups? Bang! What do you mean? She's our double-double queen! Bang! What they say, if it's broke, don't fix it. Bang! Teaching Angel Reese to make a layup is like teaching an old dog a new trick. It ain't gonna work. Bang! Hey, welcome to McDonald's. What can I get you? Have the Angel Reese McBang!
Picture this. Patrick Bet David pulls up Angel Reese's live stream clip, the one where she floats the idea of WNBA players sitting out over pay, and he just starts doing math out loud. No sugarcoating, no diplomatic cushion, just numbers. And the numbers absolutely buried her argument before she even finished making it.
Yeah, they don't give us, if y'all don't give us what we want, like, we sit out. That's a possibility, for real.
Bet David's whole case started with one figure. The WNBA was bleeding roughly $40 million a year, kept alive by NBA owners writing checks to cover what the league couldn't earn on its own. So when Reese went live and suggested players might sit out for better pay, Bet David's response was basically, sit out from what exactly? A league that can't pay its own bills without a subsidy from the men's side isn't a business that fears a work stoppage. A strike only works when the operation you're threatening to shut down is profitable enough to panic when the doors close, and the WNBA's doors were already propped open with borrowed money. Reese's comment landed like she thought she was LeBron threatening to leave Cleveland, but Bet David pointed out she was making that threat from a league that couldn't even cover its own operating costs. That's not a negotiating position. That's a bluff with no cards behind it. And he called it in plain language that anyone who's ever run a business or read a balance sheet immediately recognized.
Reese has been vocal about her low WNBA salary, revealing her $74,000 a year salary doesn't cover rent, stating on Instagram Live, I just hope you know that the WNBA doesn't pay my bills at all. I don't even think they pay one of my bills. Reese's financial struggles stem from WNBA salary not matching her past earnings, as her NIL valuation at LSU was $1.8 million, bolstered by deals with Reebok, PlayStation, McDonald's, and Coach, while a 4-year rookie deal was $324,000 with $74,000 due next season.
I just hope y'all know the WNBA don't pay my bills at all. I don't even think that pays one of my bills. Let me do the math real quick.
He might cover that. Yeah, it covers that. It definitely covers that.
What is I don't even know my salary.
What made his breakdown connect so hard with fans wasn't that he went after Reese personally, it was that he explained the structural problem with her threat. He walked through exactly why withholding labor only works when your labor is the thing generating the revenue that everyone else depends on. And then he asked who was actually generating that revenue. Bet David pointed straight to Caitlin Clark. Her Nike deal, her Gatorade contract, her Forbes recognition as the most powerful woman in sports, and then the attendance numbers. A 48% spike across the league, 2.3 million total fans through the turnstiles, a 170% jump in TV ratings on ESPN. Clark's first season didn't just move the needle, it made the needle relevant again after years of people barely noticing it existed.
Angel Reese says WNBA players could go on strike over salary and benefits.
Career you choose, you should probably look at what the career earnings are of going into that field. What I'll also say is this, every single one of you WNBA players, you better pray that Caitlin Clark doesn't get injured. because she's keeping your league afloat.
So Bet David asked the obvious question, the one people had been dancing around for months. If one player is responsible for the attendance spikes, the TV rating jumps, and the conversations about $1 billion media deal, why is the player who books fashion shows instead of gym sessions the one making ultimatums? Reese had the Reebok shoe, the Bayou Barbie persona, the magazine covers, and enough social media followers to fill a small city. But none of that moved tickets in Atlanta or bumped the ratings number that ESPN executives track when they're deciding how much a broadcast rights deal is worth. Sponsors and league executives don't care about runway appearances. They care about how many people tune in and how many seats fill up. And Reese's brand activity didn't touch either of those metrics in any way that showed up in the data. Fan reaction to Bet David's breakdown came fast, because he gave people the economic framing to say what a lot of them already felt. They'd watched Clark drag the league into conversations it hadn't been part of in decades, and then watched other players complain about the spotlight instead of earning more of it. Bet David just put dollar signs next to the argument and said it at full volume.
Hey, this is the greatest Angel Reese layup you'll ever see. Here we go with the dump off, ba-da-dum-bum-bum, I'm loving it. Burn! Oh, she getting jiggy with it. Look at that, crisscross, zigging-zagging through the lane. Giddy up, yeehaw! Burn! Now I heard she's ambidextrous. That makes sense, cause she's equally doggy doo-doo with the right and left-handed layup. Burn! Professional basketball player needing to work on her layups is like a fish needing to learn how to breathe underwater. It doesn't make sense. Reese's Puffs!
His core point wasn't that Reese shouldn't earn more money. It was that threatening to sit out only works when you're the one whose absence would actually cost the league something. And those receipts had one name on them, and it wasn't Angel Reese. While Reese was going live to complain about pay, Clark was doing something that doesn't get nearly enough attention. She was actually making the league worth paying for, not through speeches or tweets or live stream ultimatums, but by playing basketball so well that network executives started treating WNBA games like a product they needed to own.
WNBA and what's her name? Angel Reese. Do it. I fully support your right to strike. So other sports have done it. So other major sports have done it. Here's a quick list for you, PBD. I put this together. Biggest sports strikes in history. 1994, the MLB strike. It was the first time that the World Series was canceled.
I remember.
You remember that? In 1998, the NBA went on strike. They canceled the All-Star game for the first time.
No one
the
knows.
NFL has gone on strike multiple times. 1982, 1987, 2011. Here's the catch when you're going to go on strike. In 1994, MLB, NBA, NFL, what's the number one revenue sport in America? What do you think it is? The NFL. How much do you think they make? $17 billion. The NBA, a little over $11 billion. The MLB, also $11 billion. The NHL, $7 billion.
The new collective bargaining agreement didn't happen because players threatened to walk. It happened because ESPN and other networks watched Clark turn WNBA games into appointment television during her rookie season. And suddenly there was real money on the table that owners actually wanted to protect. We're talking about an 11-year media rights deal worth $2.2 billion, averaging $200 million a year, which is a number that would have sounded like a joke if you'd said it out loud before Clark's first season tipped off. Network executives credited Clark's viewership surge directly when explaining why they wrote checks that big, because she turned casual fans into people who actually scheduled their evenings around WNBA tip-off times. Clark's contribution to the CBA wasn't a speech or a negotiating tactic. It was data. Fever games averaged 1.2 million viewers on ESPN, a 170% jump, and road games sold out across the country, specifically because Clark was the visiting player. Indianapolis sat at the top of the league in attendance for 2 straight seasons. All of that fed directly into the negotiating room because owners who'd spent years subsidizing a money-losing league suddenly had a television product that networks were actively bidding on, and that changed what they were willing to put on paper for player salaries.
I mean, I'm not huge on like comparing the WNBA and the NBA. Like, I don't really think that's fair. Obviously, I think where the WNBA is right now is pretty incredible. I think a lot of people, or most people, would not believe it's in the place that it is right now. So I think when people always ask me this question, like, where I think it'll be in 5 years, is like, it's hard for me to answer because people didn't even think we'd be right here, right now. And I think really sky's the limit. I think when you see, our TV numbers when we're on, national television, we're averaging over 1 million viewers or whatever it is. The All-Star game, I think, was over 4 million viewers. Like, it's just really great numbers. So the more opportunities we're given, I think the more it's going to shine and get better and better. I think also the talent level in college is continuing to get a lot better, and as those players come into the league, and it's going to continue to improve. We're adding 2 new teams next year, and then probably another team year after that.
Some more games.
Yeah, more games, which I think will be good. It will lengthen the season a little bit more.
Clark went from earning $75,000 a year under the old deal to over $500,000 this season, and she's already eligible for Supermax consideration next year, which could push her annual salary past $1.3 million. That's not a gift from the league office. That's the market saying exactly what it thinks her presence is worth in dollar terms, with receipts attached. Every single WNBA player got a raise under this CBA, and that includes the players who spent 2024 openly resenting Clark's spotlight, complaining about the media coverage gap, and going on live streams to threaten work stoppages. Aaliyah Boston's deal reflects her reliability and two-way value. Kelsey Mitchell's contract reflects her scoring. Lexi Hull and Sophie Cunningham are both earning more than they would have under the old structure, and a real chunk of why any of that's possible is because Clark dragged the league's television profile out of the minor league tier it had been stuck in for years. The league went from a $200 million media deal under the previous agreement to $2.2 billion, and that gap is where everyone's raises live.
Yes, it is unrivaled. It is also unwatched. Look, let's be honest, we can sugarcoat it all you want, but if you don't have Caitlin Clark playing women's basketball, or if you're not the NCAA tournament playing women's basketball, you got nothing. Zero, zip, nothing.
The uncomfortable math is that the players who complained loudest about Clark's outsized attention are now cashing checks that exist because of her outsized impact. Reese wanted higher pay for WNBA players, and she got it, just not at the level she assumed she'd get it. Because it turns out the CBA rewarded the people who actually grew the audience, not the people who talked about growing it on Instagram Live. Clark didn't sit out, she didn't threaten anything or call a press conference or drop a strongly worded post. She averaged 19.2 points, 8.4 assists, and 5.7 rebounds per game in her rookie season, made the league's TV numbers jump in a way nobody had seen in decades, and let the salary sheet sort itself out from there. And then preseason started, Reese flew down to Atlanta, and the cameras were ready to watch her prove she'd spent the offseason in a gym.
Angel Reese, preseason basketball, we're back, baby. 3-ball, you want some? Come get some. Bang! I heard she got traded for a used jockstrap and a dirty diaper. New team, same layup package. Bang! How about them eyeballs? You know what they say, free throws ain't free. How about it? Bang! They say second time's a charm. Bang! No, it's not. How about the third time? Bang! Fine. The fourth one will go in. Flick that wrist, spin that ball. Wiggity, wiggity, bang!
Chicago traded Angel Reese for 2 late first-round picks and a second-round swap, which is the kind of return you get for a player whose locker room reputation traveled faster than her highlight reel and whose skill set doesn't fit where the league is heading. Atlanta gave her a clean slate, a new city, a new roster, and a chance to walk into preseason looking like someone who'd actually spent the offseason in a gym rather than at a fitting. April 29th, Atlanta Dream versus Chicago Sky, and if there was ever a game Reese needed to dominate, it was this one. Playing against the team that shipped her out, with cameras locked onto her every possession, the setup couldn't have been more obvious. Go off, make Chicago look stupid for trading you, and flip the entire narrative in one night. She finished 2 for 7 from the field. That's 29% shooting in 13 minutes, against a Sky roster that rested Skylar Diggins-Smith, Jonai Carrington, and Azura Stevens, meaning Chicago didn't even send its full lineup and still walked away looking better than Reese did.
Take a look at all the empty seats. Watch for yourself.
Reese was shooting the three and way in the passing lane, forces a turnover, calls her own number.
That was highly indirect. She fouled out of the...
Angel Reese doing
some on the defensive glass.
Opportunity to return home to Chicago, and now this league in year 12. Blocks the Angel with the rebound.
The thing is, Reese's game doesn't have a lot of hiding spots. She's not a three-point shooter, so her entire offensive existence runs through finishing at the rim. And when that breaks down, the stat line just sits there empty with nowhere to go. A guard who shoots poorly can still rack up assists or get to the line. Reese shot poorly and the paint was basically closed for business the whole night, so there was nothing to fall back on. Critics online pointed out almost immediately that when a player's whole game depends on finishing inside and the finishing stops working, there's nowhere to hide, and April 29th proved that out in real time. What also stood out was how loose Chicago looked without her. Their ball movement had an ease to it that wasn't really there last season, and players competed with a kind of comfort that's hard to fake. That looseness wasn't a coincidence, and anyone watching could read between the lines pretty clearly about what the locker room temperature felt like before Reese caught that flight to Atlanta.
Angel Reese preseason part 2. Let's get it! So many fans in the stands, it's all filled to the brim to see you me-bound! How about it? Bang! You can really tell she's been in the lab all off season working on that explosiveness. Look right here, she gets almost 2 inches off the ground. Me-bound!
Then May 3rd arrived and the Washington Mystics showed up, and Kiki Iriafen made the whole thing considerably worse. Iriafen blocked and altered Reese's shots at the rim with enough regularity that it stopped looking like a tough matchup and started looking like a straight-up mismatch. Iriafen isn't a name most casual fans recognize yet, which makes it even more brutal, because getting erased repeatedly by someone who isn't even a household name yet is exactly the kind of performance that lives in a scouting report for years. Defenders around the league now have film showing Reese can be neutralized at the rim by a player most people haven't Googled, and that's a real problem for a player who was supposed to be a top 5 talent coming out of college. 2 preseason games, 2 losses, and a shooting performance across both nights that suggested Reese's off-season schedule included a lot of things that weren't a basketball court. Bet David's whole point about players confusing brand activity with actual preparation didn't need any more evidence after those 2 games, because the tape made the argument on its own.
Bang! She's got this nasty trick shot where she hip-fires layups from 2 feet away, like that! Bang! That shot is her bread and butter. Butter, my God! Bang! Her form is cooked. That ball is so far away, it's in another solar system. Maybe she makes it. Nope. Bang! Checking on her boyfriend, Wendell Shorter Jr. Detroit fans chanting Angel Reese. 2 peas in a pod, Mr. and Mrs. Brick. Bang! No. Someone tell her there's not an incentive in your contract that pays you more money for missing layups. That's a prey-up. Bang! I wanted to see a baby giraffe try to play Twister. I go to the circus. What is that? Bang!
Fans watching online weren't quiet about it. Comment sections filled up fast, and the gap between what Reese's brand promises and what her game actually delivers kept coming up over and over, because people noticed and they weren't interested in being polite about it. Let's talk about what $300,000 actually means right now, because it sounds like decent money until you put it next to the new CBA's average salary of around $530,000 and realize Reese is sitting well below that line. She's not just making less than Clark. She's making less than the new average, which is a number the league built specifically around the idea that players who grow the audience get paid like they grow the audience.
Everybody else is getting paid. It's time for The Reason, because that's her name, Caitlin Clark, aka The Reason. It's time for The Reason to collect as well. It's not for everybody else to just eat while she run around and take shorts. That's not what this is for. Congratulations to Aaliyah Boston. Well deserved. Happy the Indiana Fever locked her in for years to come. The dynamic duo of Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston is going to be a force to be reckoned with for years to come in this league.
Reese walked into the league with all-star appearances, a Reebok signature shoe, a massive social media following, and enough media coverage to fill a highlight channel for a year straight. And the CBA priced her out at roughly what a solid rotation player earns, the kind of player who does her job quietly and doesn't make the news. That gap between the brand Reese built and the salary the league assigned her isn't an accident or an oversight. It's the market saying her off-court activity didn't move the numbers that actually fund player salaries, which are TV ratings, ticket sales, and merchandise volume. The players who spent 2024 complaining about Clark's outsized media attention are now finding out the new salary structure was basically built on the exact logic they argued against. The CBA rewards market impact, and Clark's market impact is what ESPN executives publicly credited as the driving force behind the league's historic viewership surge, which is what justified the $2.2 billion media rights deal, which is what put more money in everyone's contract. So Aaliyah Boston earns more because she's a reliable two-way player who makes the Fever worth watching alongside Clark. Kelsey Mitchell earns more because she scores and competes at a level that holds up on a national broadcast. Lexi Hull and Sophie Cunningham are both earning more than they would have under the old structure. And the reason that money exists at all traces directly back to Clark making the league's TV product worth bidding on.
Don't leave a penny on the table. Don't leave a cent on the floor. You take it all. You get that super max epic deal because you've earned it and you've deserved it. And then the Indiana Fever moving forward will have Aaliyah Boston and they'll have Caitlin Clark up until 2029. And that gives them a 3-year runway to go back to back to back. It'll give them 3 years to make sure this whole team's put together for these two.
Reese's Reebok deal and fashion show appearances haven't produced the kind of secondary market activity that sponsors track. So her off-court brand isn't closing the gap between her $300,000 and Clark's $500,000, plus the way people assumed it might. Sponsors care about what happens to jersey sales and ticket demand when a player's name gets attached to a game. Reese's name hasn't moved those numbers, and the contract she signed reflects that pretty directly. Clark's Supermax eligibility next season could push her salary past $1.3 million, which puts her at roughly 4 times what Reese earns this year. And that ratio is going to come up every single time anyone mentions pay equity in women's basketball for the next several years. Reese was one of the loudest voices calling for higher WNBA salaries, and she got them, just not for herself at the level she expected, because it turned out the CBA wasn't a document about seniority or social media reach or shoe deals. It priced out based on who actually put people in seats and kept them watching.
You had the reaction at the time, the delayed not denied post from Asia Wilson, and then Asia's shoe comes out and so on and so forth, and that was a big rollout. And there was speculation that Nike was worried about stepping on toes or offending anybody by launching CC shoe ahead of everybody else, even though she got the big deal and is the most popular and all that. But it's coming.
Clark's rookie season income, including endorsements, cleared $8.1 million total. Her base salary alone this season tops $500,000. And while Reese figures out how to finish at the rim in Atlanta, the Fever are running it back with Clark, Boston, Mitchell, Hull, and Cunningham, building something the salary sheet already says the league thinks is worth protecting. The 2026 season salary sheet reads like a verdict. Clark earned her raise by making the league worth watching, and Reese earned her $300,000 by spending the offseason doing everything except fixing her layup. If Reese wants to close that 4-to-1 gap, she's got a full season to do it. But 2 preseason games of bricked paint touches and getting bodied by players nobody's Googled yet isn't exactly a strong opening argument. Clark, Boston, Mitchell, Hull, and Cunningham are running it back in Indianapolis, playing in a league that finally pays its best player what she's worth, while Reese checks her fashion show calendar. How long do you think Reese will last in the WNBA? Let me know down in the comments below. Like, subscribe, and turn on all notifications so you never miss out. Click the video on the screen, and we will see you in the next one.